billion. Yes, billion. That is with 9 zeros. That's the amount of waste the world generated in 2023, 2 years back. To give a spoiler, it's going to be doubled by 2050. So imagine the amount of waste, solid waste, piling up on our planet. The numbers are scary. By any chance, have you ever taken some time while driving nearby to your streets, seeing the pile of waste? It's not something beautiful that to gaze upon, but again, it has a story. And the story is such, the materials that you see that are biting dust were once very important to somebody. It could be a broken toy, it could be some piece of electronic appliances and whatnot. What always amazes me is the journey, how things start. I remember very well, we used to buy t-shirts for occasion or any just clothes for that matter. We used to buy for that occasion, we used to make it as a night dress, as a t-shirt especially, which eventually comes into a mob format, a couple of months later or so. That has been that zero waste tendency which was inbuilt by default in our early model, which has been like drastically changing, I believe. So these are the images which I had taken from different places. I find some stories in this, and it has been, the background I'll just walk you through. So these are the materials which I have been collecting over years without any actual intention what I'll be doing. But again, what are the odds that these material would actually comprise to create something like this? It has materials from your wristwatch to parts of bike, parts of car, broken toys, you name it, it's there. It comprises more than 300 materials ranging from a millimeter size to inches. And it took 6 months, by the way, to complete this. And just to give a flashback, it started during my early school days. I was highly fond of dismantling stuff which was discarded, which mainly consists of Walkmans, tape recorders, radio sets, and so on. Somehow the motherboard, the magnets, intrigued me big time and turned out to be my early muse. But I had no idea what to do with them. I was curious enough to fiddle around, see how things work. And I largely remember that motherboards usually depicted a top aerial view of some cityscape. And these are some materials which I had taken, and these are actual photos of that time. And it started growing that way in one of the rainy afternoon, that is during my early college days. I was having a mango and took every pulp out of it. The seed that was left behind resonated some weird shaped old man's head, which I later converted into a face of Albert Einstein. I still have this. So this was something that I had no idea what I would be doing, but somehow the proverb which you can see stayed with me at that time. And it happened so that from that time, the curiosity doubled. I started gathering more and more materials and eventually created a small miniature kingdom of mine. And you can see some here. The story is, these are the materials which are mainly there in our home. It's discarded. It could be part of your some wristwatch, some small broken vessel, mixie, whatnot. And this somehow started getting me some recognition from my neighborhood. They started gifting me all this. And I started with some pile of 10 kgs of such waste at that time. Post my college, few years later, I got into animation. While in that job phase, I received an invitation from IIT Bombay. And that was one of the golden moments to take my hobby, which started from household junk, pocket full of that, and eventually started spreading on tables. So I carried all the materials, spoke to people whom I have never met. I was addressing how it started, but the question was, it has started from my school days, but what do I do next? That was again a question mark for me. But seeing the motivation that people around this event started giving me feedback, and it happened so that I started spending more time on this. And post this, another milestone, an important one, I received a call from an art and craft show which was aired on national TV. And for that, I was supposed to carry all this work from Pune to Hyderabad. But what was unexpected and something which turned out to be very devastating was all the work which I have been doing all these years was mishandled in the flight. Everything was broken. Imagine next day you are supposed to shoot materials which has lot of legacy stories, and everything is shattered again back to trash. I was so petrified I couldn't open up with any of the staff there, tell them what exactly has happened. But there was no escape. I was there with my art, I was supposed to present it. That didn't work. But the advice that I got from the crew was, why don't you scout around, find something that you can find interesting, maybe we can do something around that. And that time I realized like what I have been doing, whether I was sleeping on that, seeing materials, trying to do some combination in my head. But this time was highly impromptu. I was supposed to find some material, do something on the set then and there. Of course, there was helping hands around, but somehow the light of that spark was something which went completely off. But what happened next was, I got some set of expired medicine which was there in their godown. They were like pretty huge numbers, around some 80 to 90 pieces of such expired medicine strips. And I don't know for what reason, but the strip of medicine always resonated like a panel of some building. And using those medicine strips, I made a clock tower, which was again a big hit for the kids at that time, because there was no Google, there was nothing to refer. It was completely out of my head and in the sake of urgency. So this journey of mine has started with some materials randomly picked, but as I kept meeting more and more people, addressing events, exhibition and all, I started taking this much more seriously. And few years back, I was invited by an institution in Delhi. And this time, my canvas was almost 7 feet. What was supposed to be done was, involving the panelists, speakers, and other members, I was supposed to create something which creates a wow factor. So all these tiles that you see are some 10 inches by 10 inches. And the crowd was supposed to stick to this respective number which was written on the backside. And what it turned out to be astonishing for the whole unit was, it eventually comprised to form our beloved president, our missile man, Abdul Kalam, that is using plastic waste, industrial waste, parts of X-rays, flex banners, and so on. What intrigues me here is, what are the odds the material which I have been picking from different parts, I was in Bangalore at that time. Just a week back, I was collecting these materials from different scrap vendors without any intention that it will end up in a Delhi hall, auditorium for some event. So the question was, what is the backstory, what logic you follow, what is your pattern? And sustainability now seems to be a buzzword, but since when I started during my school days, there was no such term. And the same I responded, like I'm not sure whether sustainability is something that using different materials for different purpose, whether that solves a purpose. But I think it's more than that. It's an attitude. How we refuse to change something which can be given a second chance. Say, for example, if you can repair something, why should you replace it? At least give a second shot. And somehow this idea or thesis has been sticking to me since long. And these were the legends which I had done in 18 years. And so far in this journey of 18 years, I have almost repurposed more than 1400 kgs of waste, which does not even comprise to a specific type of material. It ranges from e-waste, plastic waste, flex banners, toys, whatnot. So this was again a concept for an institution based out in Hyderabad. It's called Leap of Faith. Highly resonating to the theme as well as to the whole story I have been narrating. All these materials I have been collecting all these years, and it's humongous. It's some more than 900 circular parts coming from CDs, coming from open lids of your vessels, coming from toy cars, and also parts of cars, bikes, and what else. So again, the question here is, how do we change this in our day-to-day life? My idea so far has been like, what can be reimagined, repurposed? I think it's high time we follow that and try to reduce at least some marginal waste that we can do from our side on a very micro level to start with. And living ahead, I would still say that Einstein, again my recent work, it started with Albert Einstein back in mid-2000. Say 2006 to be precise, and 2025, the quote still remains in my head, and the artwork that you see is comprising some more than 200 parts of different types of plastic. Not just plastic, it has PCBs and so on. So I leave up to you. Before you discard, give a second thought. That's, I think, the food for thought also. Thank you.